Welcome, everyone. This is Dr. Kondrot calling, and this is a very exciting webinar for me because I'm broadcasting this webinar from Paris, France. I just finished my first class with Dr. Christian Agrapar, who's a brilliant French physician. He's a neuropsychiatrist who's done an amazing amount of research using color therapy. It's interesting. Color therapy in France is very, very popular. He has some phenomenal cases in treating severe pathology. And when I met him in Belgium, he wants to take me on as a student and to teach me his techniques for the first time. This has not been taught to anyone from America. So it's a real honor for me to be involved with learning his advanced technique of color therapy. And so I'll be sharing all this information with you in the future. I'm doing this via Skype, so I hope that everything comes through clear. So if you are having some trouble hearing me and you have a question, look up on the right at the toolbar. You can either type a question or you can raise your hand. And like being in the classroom, you raise your hand and then I'll call on you. So let's begin. Today's webinar, we're going to focus on microcurrent. And for the longest time, I felt that patients should not have the knowledge for programming their own machine. But I've changed my opinion over time. And those of you that might be interested in obtaining some more training, we are offering courses now to help you learn the basics of microcurrent so you can be able to program and change the programs on your machine. And we do have classes in Phoenix, Arizona, and at the Wellness Center in Florida. So depending on your level of understanding, the office staff or I'll be able to help you determine what would be the best program for you. We also have our annual microcurrent training and case conference, which is in October 2nd and 4th. And this is a phenomenal meeting where microcurrent practitioners come from all over the world to present cases that have been successfully treated with microcurrent. And at the same time, you will learn the basics of microcurrent and learn more about your machine. So remember that microcurrent is more than treating your eye. It can help balance your emotional state, reduce stress, eliminate heavy metals from your body, treat high blood pressure, headaches, on. And I'm going to cover a little bit of that during this webinar. So we have some phenomenal speakers this year at the conference. We have a gentleman who's an expert with Rife, William Rife, and many of you have heard of Rife, the Rife frequencies, the Rife machine. I'm going to talk about using computer biofeedback in selecting the right frequencies. I think selecting the right frequencies is key to getting the best success with your microcurrent. And there's a Dr. Schlesinger that's going to be talking about using kinesiology, and we have a speaker discussing pain. We're also going to be presenting the proceedings of last year's case conference, and we had Tim Smith speak. This is going to be a published document. We had Tim Smith speak on microcurrent past, present, and future, and we had some other speakers there. And one of the things that is always fun at the case conference, doctors and therapists present cases, and then we vote on the best case. So you're getting to see the best of microcurrent. So this conference is going to be in October at the Dolphin Resort at St. Pete's Beach. So I hope you can make an effort to attend, and you can call the office for more information. And we will keep you up to date on this. But once again, I think that all of you who are using microcurrent take the opportunity to learn more, to learn how microcurrent can not only help your eyes, but other parts of your body. Now, I became interested in microcurrent about not 50 years ago, 15 years ago. I'm not that old. About 15 years ago, when I heard about Sam Snead, the great golfing legend, who had a dramatic improvement of his macular degeneration with microcurrent. And at that time, I contacted the microcurrent company, and I purchased some of the machines and began treating some of my patients who did not respond to conventional treatment. And I was surprised. 7 out of 10 of them had a very nice improvement of vision. So I've been using microcurrent in the practice ever since. And so I had the opportunity of treating Sam Snead for a week at his Florida home. And in turn, he gave me golf lessons. So I really enjoyed spending time with him. He's one of the greatest golfers of all time. Now, in order to understand microcurrent, our body is based on electricity. Each cell of our body is like a little battery, and we need electrical stimulation for repair and generation. And some people feel that electron deficiency is the cause of disease. So when we lack electrons, that's when we get disease. And many of you have heard about pH. You want an alkaline pH in your body for health. Well, when you have an alkaline pH, your body has more of a negative charge. It has more electrons. When you're acidic, you have more of a positive charge or lack of electrons. So you can just simply look at microcurrent as putting energy, putting those electrons into your body for healing. So that's one of the mechanisms, and it's rather simplistic. But this is what we're doing with many of our therapies. For example, the oxidative treatments. We're adding electrons when we're using ozone gas, O3. We're adding electrons. So now, it always disturbs me when doctors criticize microcurrent and say that there's no proof that it works. And I'm going to be going through some articles that actually have studied each one of these things I'm going to be going over. There's no question that microcurrent improves blood flow in the body, stimulates cellular activity, actually can remove scar tissue, reduce inflammation, and has a neuroprotective effect. So all of these things can be extremely beneficial when we're treating some type of disease, whether it's in your eye, a musculoskeletal problem, a non-healing ulcer, etc. It just makes sense that anytime that you do one of these activities, you're going to help the body to heal. And essentially, the cause of disease is when you have a decrease in blood flow, the cells are not as active, you have inflammation, etc. On the left is a picture of Lance Armstrong. In addition to blood doping, that was unfortunate that he used this mechanism. He also used microcurrent routinely, and he and his cycling team used this to help regenerate their bodies and help reduce inflammation. And on the right is another athlete. That's a photo of myself and my wife, Lee. We ran the Marine Corps Marathon, and it was amazing to me. I was really sore, hurting, and after a 30-minute treatment of microcurrent, all my pain went away. Well, simply because microcurrent reduces inflammation, stimulates healing and regeneration. So it really, really impressed me. I see the benefits with people with eye disease, but when you have a dramatic effect with yourself after running a 26.2-mile race, you kind of believe in the microcurrent more. Now, the technology has changed quite a bit. When I first began using microcurrent, we used a device called the MicroStim 100, and we we treated the eye by acupuncture points around the eye. And this was kind of tedious, very slow. You had to time 15 seconds and you moved to a different point and you went through different frequencies. And as you can see on the left, we only had 4 frequencies. We had 292, 30, 9.1, and 0.3. And the doctors at that time felt that the higher frequencies reduced inflammation and the lower frequencies actually stimulated healing. And there have been some published papers now that actually have confirmed this, that the lower frequencies, and the frequency is a vibration, and it's the number of vibrations per second. So when you have a 0.3 hertz, you essentially have 1/3 vibration every second. So one vibration would be in 3 seconds. So it's a very, very low frequency. But the higher ones, as I mentioned, will reduce inflammation. A big advance was using frequency specific, and this is one of the older frequency specific machines where we would dial in different frequencies and see how they would affect the tissue. And the goal was that each tissue has a unique frequency or vibration. And what we want to do is we want to match the resonance of the microcurrent or frequency with the tissue. And you kind of get a harmonic effect. So if you would vibrate 2 C-sharp tuning forks and they would be identical to each other, you're going to get a harmony. And they'll support each other. So that's essentially what we want to do when we're doing microcurrent. We want to put the frequency in at the exact same. Now, I don't know if I think I might be losing. We're getting a hissing noise here. Okay. Let me know. I heard some hissing noise. I hope you're still hearing me. If someone could type into the screen if they're hearing me or not. Let me just see here. Okay, just a second here. Lily? Artilly? Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
There was some buzzing noise and I wasn't sure whether I lost everybody. Okay, I'll continue. Thanks.
Lots of hissing noise. And I've lost about 5 minutes of your audio. I've got the screen, but.
Okay, well, hopefully I'm coming through. So anyway, when we began using the frequency specific, this has produced a dramatic improvement in the treatment outcomes of macular degeneration. So by using these specific frequencies, we're driving the energy to the tissue that we want to have the maximum effect. So, a general frequency of reducing inflammation will reduce inflammation in the whole body, but somehow if we could fine tune it to be directed to the eye, then we're going to get a much more dramatic effect. So the idea is not new with frequency specific. It dates back to the early 1900s. Dr. Albert Abrams, he calibrated different instruments to detect the radiation or vibrations of different living tissue. And every tissue has a unique vibration or frequency. And this depends on the carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen bonding in the molecular structure. It also depends on the density, the water content, etc. So this whole idea of frequency specific has taken microcurrent to the next level. And of course, we use hundreds, if not thousands of different frequencies from 0.1 to 999 with varying intensities. So, for example, the retina has a frequency of 95 hertz and the macula 137. And each type of pathology has a frequency. For example, hemorrhage has a frequency of 18 and edema 14. So you can see that we try to tie in these different frequencies to develop a proper treatment protocol or a proper prescription. But the question may be is what evidence does this really work? And this is a study done in a rabbit ear where you can see the blue column here. Arachadonic acid was applied to a rabbit ear. Arachadonic acid is a powerful acid which causes swelling or edema. Then what was done, microcurrent was used to treat the inflammation. And you can see here the red area. This was a frequency for inflammation and the skin. And this was just a generic frequency, the same current, but no specificity. So you can see when the frequency specific was used, there was a much more dramatic decrease in the swelling. Now, a question I'm always asked is, why are these machines so expensive when I can buy a microcurrent machine on eBay maybe for $70? Well, number one, they're really not a microcurrent machine. They're more of a TENS machine. They have a much higher current. And I'll talk about a study that was done that illustrated that in order to get the maximum effect, you need a low current. By a low current, we're talking about the range of 20 to 40 microamps. Once the current gets higher, especially over that 500 microamps, there actually is a decrease in cellular activity. The other thing is a lot of these inexpensive machines are current adjust. By that I mean you as a patient or user can turn the current up or you can turn it down to a low level. But unfortunately, there's no knob or there's no governing device to prevent you from turning it too high. So the machine I use is a current constant machine. By that, when we set the current for 40 microamps, you cannot inadvertently or by mistake turn the current up. We also have the ability to program this machine to multiple frequency pairs. And also the machine has a feedback mechanism, so it measures the resistance in your body to keep the current at the right level. Now, the analogy is a garden hose. When we're delivering microcurrent to your eye, we want to make sure that the current is at a very low level, much like when you're watering little seedlings. You don't want to have too much water flow out rapidly, or you're going to destroy the plants. Likewise, the retina is very sensitive, and we want to make sure that the current or flow is very low. So there has to be an adjustment with the water pressure and the flow. So if you step on the garden hose, you're going to have more pressure. If your foot is off the garden hose, you are going to have more pressure. So the machine has a constant feedback to make sure that the flow of current is constant and low. And here is an example of a patient receiving the eye program. And you can see that we have the gloves wrapped in washcloth over the eyes and one on the back of the head. And then we also have body programs. On the left is doing a detox, one glove on the abdomen, one on the back. And then you can also do a program just by simply holding the gloves in your hand. I'm excited. Not only am I here in Paris, France right now studying with Dr. Christian Agopar, I'm also involved with research at the University of Rome. Professor Matteo Russo and Marcella Nebbioso are interested in my work. And we've developed an animal model to study the effects of microcurrent. So it's nice to see that people are becoming interested in microcurrent. Unfortunately, it's not as well received in the United States as it is in Europe, but I think the interest is growing, and the good results that I'm getting with the microcurrent. I'm hoping to publish those results in some journals to help spread the word. Now, let's just briefly go through some articles. And these articles, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them, but just to show you what has been published. This is an example of using microcurrent in patients with arterial disease. These are circulatory problems, blocked arteries in a leg. And in this group of people, the majority of them had an improvement. 23 patients in the study, 20 out of 23 showed a marked improvement of circulation with microcurrent. This is a study done with peripheral ischemia Raynaud's and diabetic polyneuropathy. And it showed an increase in circulation, an increase in skin temperature, and a decrease in pain with microcurrent. So another study that shows that microcurrent improves circulation. I like this study because this is the effect of microcurrent in treating patients with leg ulcers who are not responsive, who are resisted standard medical approaches. So these people did not get a good response, and with microcurrent, they had an improvement. I like a study like this because if they didn't have this standard medical approach, the comment could have been made, well, they would have gotten better already. But these were tough cases that did not respond to regular treatment and responded to microcurrent. So once again, this shows that microcurrent does improve blood flow. This is a case of an ulcer caused by leprosy. And the leprotic ulcer is a very, very virulent, non-healing ulcer, and it showed improvement. This is the use of microcurrent in coronary artery disease, heart disease, and it showed that it improved the blood flow to the heart, which is kind of exciting. And this is a case of fibromyalgia, which is felt to have some type of problem with the microcirculation in the muscles. And once again, it reduced the pain and showed that it improved blood flow. And this is the use of microcurrent in hypertension. And it showed that microcurrent lowered the blood pressure in this group of patients. This is a study looking at tinnitus or ringing in the ears. And I have had a few patients successfully treated with tinnitus. It's a tough condition to treat, but it's like other conditions that we deal with. You need to change the diet, look for heavy metal poisoning, and do other things besides the microcurrent, because the microcurrent should not be viewed as a shortcut. Now, this is the study that really caused a lot of people to open their eyes with microcurrent. This Korean investigator actually looked at the effect of microcurrent on the cellular level, and he studied the changes, the histopathological changes, using electron microscopy. And he observed that low levels of microcurrent dramatically improved cellular activity, as much as 500%. 500%. But he also noted when high levels of current was used, there was actually a decrease in cellular activity. So once again, I have to emphasize the level of current is important along with the frequency. Too high of a current, you're going to decrease the effect, and that's why it's important. It have a machine that has a current constant. Another paper dealing with someone with resistant hypertension, a group of people with treatment of chronic wounds that were resistant to healing. Now, I'm recording all of this, so I'll be sending you a link to this webinar if some of you are having trouble with the sound, and I'm hoping that things will be coming through a lot better on my recording. But this is the faceplate of the machine. And I just want to review that this button here, the start button or on button. When you click this, you'll get a blinking light. The blinking light indicates that the machine is in a standby mode. This gives you opportunities to select the proper program. Then once you have the program blinking, you hit this button again, and the machine will begin to run. You have channel indicator lights. You want these lights to be off when you're doing the microcurrent. If these lights come on, that means there's a problem with your connection. Now you have the shift key here, or the pause key. The shift key enables you to go to 5 more programs. So this machine actually holds 10 programs. Some of you have more than 5. And if you're interested, and I'll talk a little bit more about some of the extra programs we have that you can put on your machine. And these are the gloves. I'm going to talk about care of the gloves. So what type of washcloths, how wet, what type of water? Well, as I mentioned, we like a thin cotton washcloths, the Walmart washcloths. We don't want them too thick. Thin is probably better. And they should be cotton, because cotton is absorbent, it holds the water. And a question is often asked, how wet? Now, they don't have to be dripping, soaking wet. They should be wet enough that the channel indicator lights do not come on. If the channel indicator lights come on, that means that the microcurrent, the gloves are not wet enough, or the washcloths are not wet enough. Also, the type of water, I do not recommend distilled water. It should be tap water, because distilled water doesn't have any ingredients in the water. There's no solute in the water. So we want to put, there has to be some minerals in the water. And if you are using distilled water, you can put maybe a small pinch of Himalayan sea salt in the water. But I caution you not to put too much sea salt in the water, because that can be caustic to the wirings and cause corrosion. So here's our Walmart washcloth, thin cotton washcloth. And we fold it in thirds like this. So first we put the glove in the center. We fold one end and we fold the other end. And then we place one over the eye like so, and one on the back of the head. And this is the position of the washcloths, front and back. And if you hold the gloves in your hand, you really don't have to wrap them in the washcloth. You can just hold the gloves directly. And once again, the question comes up, how wet do the gloves have to be? Well, they have to be wet enough that the channel indicator lights do not come on. If those channel indicator lights come on, that means that the current is not complete. So when is the best time to do your programs? I think it's probably best to do your eye program at night before you go to sleep, because the rods and cones regenerate at night, so it makes sense to do the program then. But some of you told me they feel better in the morning. It seems to stimulate their vision. So I think you need to do it when you feel it's right for you, and I need feedback from you. Also, you may have heard me make the statement, you need to sleep in total darkness. And why is that? Because light can inhibit the healing process of your body. Even the illumination of your alarm clock hitting the skin of your hand. So it doesn't matter if your eyes are covered, if you have a sleep mask, you don't want any light in your room at all. In fact, there was a nice study done in China which showed that people sleeping in a dark room will have some beneficial effect of regenerating their eyes. So we have the eye program and the body program. And as I mentioned, the eye program, a glove goes on the front part of the eye and back of the neck. The body programs can be done in different ways. Now, In terms of doing the eye program, we like you to start by doing the eye program once a day. And after 3 months, this can be reduced to every other day or night, depending on the progress. It's best to do it at night. And progress depends on several key factors. I think the organic diet, hydration, and I should add detoxification. If your lead levels are up and you have toxic metals in your body, that is going to prevent your body from healing. So many of you may be getting a slow response to microcurrent. You really need to look at getting those heavy metals removed. And this is once again on the eye. Now, a question I get often is when you're doing the body programs and you're treating a limb or your hand, where do you put the gloves? Well, draw an imaginary line from point A to point B. And that imaginary line is the direction of the current. I'll give you an illustration. Also, you can do some of these body programs in a hot tub or a bathtub, and that's one of my favorite ways. And of course, you can do it, wrapping the washcloth and putting it on your belly and your back. So here's an example of treating an arm. You can see one washcloth is by the wrist and the other one's in the shoulder. So you draw an imaginary line from A to B from these two washcloths, and it hits this area right here. And here's an example of treating a knee. One washcloth here, one there. You can also put the washcloths on the side. By that I mean you could put a washcloth on the left side and the right side, top and bottom. The key thing is to make sure that these washcloths don't touch each other. If they do touch each other, the current is then going to flow from one washcloth glove to the other, and it's not going to go through the tissue. And here's a picture of my wife, Lee, in a hot tub. You can see the microcurrent machine on the left, cables going into the water. And this is one of our favorite ways of doing a stress program and also the detox. And this is what we did when we ran the Marine Corps Marathon. Our bodies were aching. We went into the water, soaked, and it had a miraculous effect. And you can also do this by just holding the gloves in your hand. So experiment with the microcurrent. The microcurrent is more than for your eyes. It's a wonderful program for your body, for detoxification, reducing stress. And I hope all of you consider coming to the CASE conference in October. It's a wonderful way of learning a lot more about microcurrent, empowering yourself to learn extra techniques and programming that will help you maximize the use of your microcurrent machine. So care for your gloves. Do not unclip the leads from your glove. Why? If you repeatedly unclip them, that'll weaken the connection. Wash and clean the gloves by hand, not in the machine. And you should use a very dilute organic laundry solution. Avoid strong soaps. We've had some patients who have used products like Tide or a strong detergent, and they've actually developed a rash around their eye because the microcurrent can act as a carrier. By that I mean the microcurrent can actually carry the chemical into your skin. So it can be dangerous to use strong soaps. I recommend there's a Dr. Bronner's, Brownners. It's an organic soap that you can buy in health food stores. But regardless of whatever you use, you should rinse the gloves thoroughly before you use them. And actually, the same care should be done with the washcloths, because if you're using a strong caustic detergent with your washcloth and you don't rinse it thoroughly, those chemicals can cause a problem. Many patients use essential oils, and I've used longevity oil from Young Living. Also, frankincense is an oil that is good for the eye. And this is some area that I'm researching and studying, and I do have some patients that are very knowledgeable with essential oils. And you just need a couple of drops in the water before you soak your gloves, and you can use use that. Now, your machine has the ability to have 10 programs, which is kind of exciting. But initially, I like to limit the number of programs only to 5 until you learn how to use your machine. In the past, patients have talked me into getting 10 programs, and then what happens is they end up not doing anything. They just got to do too many programs. So I really like you to focus on your eye, and then later on, when you become comfortable in using the microcurrent machine, we can add some programs. The cost for each additional program is $100. But if you take the microcurrent course, you'll be able to add programs in your own machine. You need to be PC literate. You have to be able to use a computer, Windows computer. And at the seminar, you will learn how to load the software, program your machine, and then you can just simply download different programs. And I'll show you a list. This is a list of all the programs we have. And you can call the office, and Nicole or Rachel will send you a complete list. And of course, I'm going to send all of you a copy of these slides and a copy of the webinar, so you'll have those. And we have bladder program, Bell's palsy, back, asthma, arthritis, carpal tunnel. The adrenal support, which is the program listed here, I think is a really good program, and I don't think I emphasize it enough. You know, I'm really big with the detox and the stress, but I think most people have adrenal fatigue and their adrenals are burned out. So that's another really good program. One that I'm using right now that I'm in Paris is the jet lag program. Very, very helpful. I was amazed. I was alert. You know, there's a 6-hour time difference. Paris is 6 hours ahead. Right now, it is 20 to 7 Paris time, so it's the evening here. So that program was amazing. There's also a tremor program. And another big interest is people are interested in memory. They want to do things to prevent Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. And so we do have programs for memory, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, which can also be really helpful. So I hope all of you attend the microcurrent training and case conference and call the office, and they'll send you a list of all these additional programs. Now, when should you reprogram your machine? That's another common question I get. Certainly, if there's a worsening of your condition. I don't like to hear that from any of you. If you feel your eyes are getting worse, that means that we got to change the frequency, we have to change the current, we got to make the adjustments. And many times, you may develop a new problem. Maybe now you have a cataract or the dry has gone to wet. Remember, the microcurrent is to slow the aging process. Unfortunately, it doesn't, in a small percentage of cases, it doesn't prevent the progression, you know. And I think the best way to prevent the progression and really turn things around is to do all the other things that I talk about. And I'm going to go over that laundry list. Also, another time to reprogram your machine if your treatments seem to reach a plateau. And this is very common. People are using the microcurrent machine for 3 to 6 months, and they feel like, well, the vision is stable. I'd like to get a little bit better. So then we kind of beef up the program. We change some of the frequencies. We try to identify what other programs we can put in, frequencies, to help you. And this is where I'm learning quite a bit. You know, I'm learning from each one of you, because as I work with you over a year and we're fine tuning frequencies, my understanding of microcurrent, understanding of the disease improves. And overall, you know, some of the programs I'm using now, today, 2014, are much, much better and more refined than the ones I was using 10 years ago. Certainly, if there's a change in your condition, if you're developing a cataract now, or the dry goes to wet or wet goes to dry, we got to reprogram your machine. Also, you may want to add another program. Maybe you develop some digestive problems, another symptom, and you want to use the microcurrent for that. So when you do need to reprogram your machine, give the office a call, and the girls will give you instructions on how to send it in the machine, and I'll reprogram the machine for you. Now, the interesting thing is, I reprogram the machine remotely. So I can be in Paris, France. Your machine can be in the office, and I'll rewrite the program, send a file to the office in Florida, and they'll load it on your machine. Right now, the engineers are working on a way that I can upload the program on your machine at home. So we're working on that. But right now, unfortunately, you have to send your machine to the office. Now, how can we make microcurrent work better? Remember the zinc test that we did. Microcurrent will not work effectively, properly, unless you have adequate zinc levels. Most of you have very low zinc levels, and that's why you're taking supplemental zincs, and also why I want you to have the Myers cocktail, which is a highly formulated vitamin mixture that goes in intravenously. You need to check those zinc levels every 3 months. It's a long, slow process to get the zinc levels to a functional level, an adequate level. And the reason for that is as we get older, our digestion and absorption slows. And if we have heavy metals, and I have to underscore that and emphasize it, as long as the lead is elevated, it's going to be tough for us to get an adequate zinc level. Why is that? Well, the lead is a huge molecule. It's a big bully, and it pushes the zinc out of the body. So we need to get the lead out of the body. The best way is chelation therapy, IV chelation. And you can go to the website down below, acam.org, to find a doctor near you to do it. If you have bad veins or the expense is too much to get the IV chelation, the next best is to do rectal chelation and oral chelation. But if you have elevated lead, you have to do something, and you got to do it. The sooner you get started, the more dedicated you are, you will improve. And I don't want to sound like a broken record, but hydration is also critical. If you're dehydrated, microcurrent will not work. You have to drink plenty of water. Electricity will not flow through a dry piece of wood. And also, hydration is the best way to remove toxins. Remember, 1/2 of your body weight in ounces of water, and that's what we're after. Okay, well, that's all I have for you. And let's see if anybody has questions. You can raise your hand. Nancy, do you have a question? Nancy, do you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I hear you fine.
I can hear you.
Okay, your hand
Okay,
was.
I was just had raised my I'd raised my hand because you were gone for quite a while and I was trying to signal that we couldn't hear
Okay.
you, but now I can.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry that some of you had problems with the audio, but I have recorded this, and I'll send a recording to everyone. And please give me some feedback, because it could be your computer setup. I really don't know if it's me, if it's my computer setup. So that's the problem with technology like this.
Right. I do wonder how long is the original microcurrent? Mine only has 5 programs on it, but it seems to be working okay. I mean, I just wonder how long till I really need to get something else,
Well,
get
look at
the
the
update.
list. Look at the list, and if you do have another condition you would like to use microcurrent, um, because I want to educate all of you that microcurrent can be used for many, many different things. Fibromyalgia, arthritis, digestive problems, memory, hearing. And as our body gets older, we develop chronic problems, and these chronic problems are due to a lack of electrons. So it's such a simple way. We're putting electrons, healing energy back into the body. Of course, that's one way of explaining microcurrent, but the other is this idea of frequencies and vibration and supporting tissue. Also, microcurrent stimulates stem cells. You know, we've been hearing a lot about stem cells, and it makes our stem cells healthier. So when you get the copy of all the slides, you'll see a list of all the additional programs. And I would encourage all of you to attend the microcurrent conference because you'll learn much, much more about how to use microcurrent. You know, I never leave home without it. I have my machine constantly here with me when I travel. You know, I'm not using it on my eye. I'm using it for jet lag, for stress, for insomnia. So,
is the microcurrent affected by severe cold? We have, here in the Midwest, we have had extremely cold temperatures. Like this morning, it was 20 below.
oh my
Well,
goodness.
I would think it would not be good for the machine to take that out, because sometimes when you're traveling, you can't take everything inside with you.
No, it should not.
You
It
have
should
to
not
leave it in the
affect.
car.
Nancy, it should not affect the machine, the really cold weather. It's not like there's a water component that will freeze inside the machine. It's a computer chip which can be subjected to extremely low temperatures without any damage. And I have not heard of any machines being damaged from the cold. Now, the extreme heat could damage the machine. You know, the extreme heat, if it would melt the plastic or damage the machine, that could affect the circuitry. But the cold, I don't think will.
I know with.
And I think Lily, do you have a question? Tilly, your hand's up. Do you have a question?
Yes.
Okay, shoot.
I sent you one, but I'm curious. How long do the silver line gloves last? I have had mine for, I know I'm going on past a year and a half, and I've had the one cell light come on, channel light come on, because maybe my gloves, I've been sitting there and I didn't re-wet them, and I noticed that when I pressed down more doing one of my 5 programs, the lights would not go on.
Okay, well, I'm glad you asked that because I should have a slide called When Should I Replace the Gloves? And what you're describing, it is time to replace your gloves, because when you get a new pair of gloves, they'll work effectively with just a little bit of dampness. But as the gloves become older, you're going to find you have to make them wetter and you have to squeeze them harder. So I think it's time for you to replace your gloves. And if those indicator lights come on, channel 1 and channel 2, that's also a sign that you probably need new gloves. So I would give the office a call and get them replaced.
Is it mandatory that you wash them in something like Dr. Bronner's soap or a organic?
No. I think that if you take care of them,
I've been very careful with them.
No, if you take care of them, you should not have to wash them at all. But sometimes you get oils from your hand or makeup on the glove. That's when you need to clean them. But you know, most people don't have to launder the gloves, and I would avoid laundering them unless you absolutely have to, because every time you launder the gloves, you're decreasing the life expectancy.
That's what I thought, and that's why this last pair I've had for a little over a year and a half, I have not washed them at all.
Yeah, and that could be the reason why they've lasted so long. And we have gloves in the office that are a couple years old and they're doing fine. So that's a good question.
Is there any new technology that will allow those gloves, the silver, to remain effective in the transmission of the current?
Well, I'm not aware of any. You know, Ning Wu, our engineer, is always working on refining and developing it. It's a good product because silver has one of the highest conductions out of all substances. It's much better than the EKG graphite pads. So this is a way. We had microcurrent glasses at one time. We had different devices, And it seems like we always go back to just a simple way of using the gloves. Okay.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, sure. Okay, sure. I hear you now.
Dr. Kondrot, when you say do do your eye program at night, that's specifically the one that works on the eyes. But you know, when you have 4 other programs related to that, are you talking about all 5 programs at
No.
night?
I'm talking about mainly the eye program, the one that goes on your eye. You can do the
Okay,
detox and stress during the day. In fact, you can do the stress a couple times during the day.
correct.
But the
Okay,
eye
thank you.
program, yeah, I like to do that at night. Okay, thanks, Tilly.
Okay.
Hey, Susan, did you have a question? Your hand was up. I don't know if you're still
Yeah,
there.
I'm still here. My questions were both answered because I wanted to know basically how often to wash the gloves and how long they last, and those
Mhm.
were already answered for me.
Yeah, I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
have to add. I'm gonna have to add another slide on just that topic about the gloves, when to replace them. But the best thing is to look at those channel lights, and if the indicator channel 1 or channel 2 come on, that's a good sign that the gloves are getting old and the conduction is decreasing. Most people find that they have to soak the gloves. They have to put more water in the gloves for them to work properly. But it'll get to a point where no
Right,
matter how much you soak them, how much water you use, those lights still come on, and that's the time when you got to replace them.
right. I noticed after I replaced my gloves in November,
Mm-hmm.
what a difference. As soon as I touched them,
Mm-hmm.
automatically it connected, and I had been having trouble
Mm-hmm.
with
Good.
getting a connection, especially on a couple of my
Mm-hmm.
programs.
Good. Yeah, I'm going to have to make a slide to go into more detail about that. Okay.
Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
answer.
Okay. Any other questions out there? Um, you can either raise your hand to ask me a question, or you can just simply type a question at the bottom. And I want to thank everybody for joining me if there's no other questions. Um, and I really look forward to talking to all of you about my new training and what I'm learning in Paris, France with color therapy. I really feel that this is going to be an amazing addition to what I'm offering you. An amazing addition and a rather inexpensive one. Because as you know, the light therapy is very inexpensive and simple. You need the right filter, the wavelength, and the right light bulb. And after that, it's as easy as 1, 2, 3. So I'll be sending everybody a copy of the slides and uh, suggestions for next month's webinar. I want to hear from you what areas that you feel you need more help with. What I would like to do is to talk about oxidative treatments again. That's the ozone and other things that are available. But if you have any other suggestions, remember these coaching webinars are for you. I think they're really important to help you become educated and more knowledgeable. And great. Well, it was a great webinar. I want to thank all of you for participating and asking questions. And if there's no other, question here. Oh, the question is the color training you're doing any different from what Dr. Wallace is doing? Michael, it's the difference between night and day. I was just overwhelmed with the depth of knowledge that Professor Agrapar has, his application, his methods of delivery, and I'll be presenting a webinar on these, and I'll probably be slowly introducing some of these new therapies into the practice. Okay, well, I want to thank everybody, and I'll look forward to joining you again for our next webinar in March. So I'm in Paris now, so it's au revoir to everyone.